have now tuned into Insight Sundays, the show that brings you relevant news, youth topics with a new mission and focus for our communities. Here is your host, Adrian Mickens.
What's going on, Indianapolis? And welcome to another edition of Insight Sundays right here on AM 1310, The Light. As always, we have to give a shout out to all of our sponsors, which are Andrew J. Brown Academy, Indiana Christian Leadership Conference, or ICLC, Buttons and Bows Hair Salon, Bethesda Temple Southeast Campus, New Vision Lighthouse Ministries, Hair Artistry Indy, Inner Beauty Program Incorporated, New Breed of Youth, Lighthouse Academy Charter School South and East, Beach Grove Bible Church, and Sam Ash Music Store. And once again, as always, make sure that you tune in with us live on Facebook. Once again, that is live on Facebook at Insight Sundays. Or you can watch all of our recaps on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Once again, all at the title name of Insight Sundays. As always, we have another spectacular show for you guys today here in studio. We have the Alpha for the Youth Foundation in the house today, as well as my mentor, my personal mentor is in the house today, and that is Dr. Thomas L. Brown is in the house today. So I'm going to let Alpha Leadership Foundation introduce themselves today.
Well, thank you for having me on your show today, Adrian. My name is Kevin Perry. I am the founder, CEO, and president of Alpha Foundation for the Youth.
All right.
We're here. We want to talk about our anniversary celebration that's coming up next month at Martin University.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be honoring this young man that's sitting next to me. I in my heart want to really kind of start a legacy project.
Uh-huh.
I just believe in my spirit that we need to really reach back and kind of grab a hold of some of the spirit of those prior leaders that have served this community. We have lit that fire die. We need to reignite it.
Oh yeah.
And these are the guys that inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even be doing this work if these cats hadn't been doing it, when I was young, and just encouraging us as young black males to get a good education.
Yes.
Come back to your community, empower others, things like that.
Yes.
And you don't take it seriously when you're young because you think, yeah. But they sowed a seed.
Oh, absolutely.
And here today, that seed is bringing forth fruit, and we've been doing it for 20 years. And
yes.
I want to say thank you to these guys while I can.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's no better way to start a legacy project than start with a living legend.
Absolutely.
And I'm sitting next to one
that
right
is
now.
True, 100%. So right before we get into all that good stuff about what everybody did and all the changes that we're going to do in progression, I want to make sure that we let everybody know specifically the date, the time, the location, and where they can get the tickets for this event, because that usually gets swept under the rug throughout the program. So please let everybody know the date, the location, the time, and where they can purchase tickets at.
Absolutely. The date is November the 11th, 2017, which is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be at Martin University, 2186 North Sherman Drive, 46218. Mm-hmm. The event starts at 5 o'clock with a reception, and the actual award ceremony will start around about 5:45, 6 o'clock. It may go to about 8:30 or 9, depends on how the spirit works, because it's going to be a spirit-filled event.
Absolutely.
And they can get their tickets at Eventbrite under Alpha Youth Legend Ball. It's on the Legends Ball and connected with Alpha Youth.
Okay, say that one more time, because sometimes people may be on their phone right now. Right. Say it one more time for all of our Facebook Live listeners.
Go to Eventbrite.
Eventbrite.
Type in Alpha Youth or Legends Ball.
Gotcha. Alpha Youth or Legends Ball.
Absolutely.
Alpha Youth or Legends Ball at Eventbrite. Or if that doesn't work, if everybody wants to do it the old school way, what number can they call, or do they go to Martin?
They can call me directly, 317-698-5645.
And one more time for somebody who didn't have a pen. One more time.
317-698-5645. That's my cell phone. Call me directly. If I don't answer, I may be in class. Just please leave a message, and I will call you back as soon as possible.
All right. Yeah, Dr. Brown, he always gets on me because I always whip out my iPad on him all the time. And he always says, "Where's your paper and your pen at?"
That's that old school, bro.
I always whip out the iPad on him.
Don't let the grid go out.
Yes, he always tells me that too. If the grid goes out, I'm going to be in a world of trouble.
You see, he got this newspaper, so he's one of them old school guys that still read the paper manually, probably prefer to have things printed out.
Why y'all call everything old school? Why don't you just call contemporary,
there
current
we go. I
thought?
like that. There
Okay.
we go.
See, the system's got y'all saying old.
Okay.
And when somebody asks me how old, I say how young.
Okay. I feel. Well, and you're absolutely right, because it's just a changing of the guards, and it's not about being old or young. It's just, we are looking at different technology versus when we were doing things.
Yes.
Weren't you born in eternity?
There we go.
Absolutely.
Eternity has no beginning and no end.
Nor end. That's absolutely right.
So,
But I just mess with y'all. That's all.
Dr.
No problem.
Brown, I want to know the legacy. It's one thing to read about it. You've given me a lot of information to read and books and all this good information to read up on the history of things that happened within Indianapolis before I was born and while I was living, the whole 9 yards. But can you explain to the public the significance of what your father was to the community? I mean, he has one of the biggest streets in Indianapolis that everybody always says. He has a school named after him that's doing excellent, by the way. And shout out to Principal Hill, too, as well, at Andrew J. Brown Academy and all the staff members there. But most importantly, I know that your mother has since passed this week, too, as well. So please explain that legacy that they had, because we're going to show a documentary just right after we get done with this portion of the show about their history and legacy. But at least everybody gets a chance to hear it from the seed, their son.
Oh, yo, you're really good. You're really good. The seed, the son, the S's in the dynamics. The bottom line is that mother lived to be 93. She lived to be in the body for 93. She always, and we always talked about, I'm in the body, but I'm not the body. My dad did the same thing. I'm in the body, I'm not the body. And he always said to me, son, remember, life is never born and life never dies. People did not understand that, but I understood it. And my mother and my dad came to Indianapolis back in 1948 from Chicago and brought me and my mother here. And his whole ministry was, he was not gun-ho behind being a pastor. He had promised God, if God would save his leg and everything coming out of the war, that he would be an advocate for social justice.
Gotcha.
So his involvement in becoming a pastor at St. John was always dealing with social justice, social issues. And my dad, his background was that he used to sing with Cab Calloway. My dad was a musician.
Gotcha.
And then, okay.
See, didn't know that?
Oh, a whole lot. There's a lot of things people don't know.
I didn't know that myself.
I did, and that was his thing. Now, I'll flip the script real quick. My mother was born in 1924, and in Coy, Alabama. And then she was adopted at the age of 2 because her mother was a beautiful black woman, but her father was an Irish ship captain. And they called it then his, he had these black women that he controlled, and these bright-skinned women, children were being born. So my granddaddy, which I call my granddaddy, picked my mother up, and she was adopted in Chicago. And her name is Rosa Lee Nicholson, now Brown. And at the same time, the dynamics was my mother went to DuSable, and in Chicago around in the late 30s became a very interesting journalistic writer. Wow. And my mother was a journalist and in high school and got all kind of awards, and then all of a sudden she found herself pregnant with me in 1942. And of course I popped out. There I am. My mother then pursued her education in what you would call RN.
Yes.
And as a registered nurse, she did that, but she was still a journalist. She worked for, I'm trying to remember, the Chicago Defender. Well, my mommy and poppy, which were her mother and father, and I called them mommy and poppy, he was a freelance photographer. And that's a whole nother history.
This is what I mean. You can't capture this in a book.
Yeah,
I got to hear from you directly.
And, I was read, and I try to play it in the numbers. The numbers haven't hit. 5842 State Street. 5842 State Street. Somebody going to play the numbers, and then
I'll play that tonight.
But the dynamics is that mother, while working in Chicago, dealt with Russians, Chinese, and foreign people during that time in her journalistic writing. When she married Dad, I was at the wedding. I was trying to figure out what was going on. He had his uniform on, and I'm looking at them. And see, I used to call my mother Dottie. And finally, my dad then said, "You call her mother?" "Yes, sir." And I was kind of under that military kind of thing with him. And by the time he got to Indianapolis, he began his initial efforts right there from St. John into civil rights. Now, the history of my dad tied into the civil rights was Martin Luther King and the family knew him. And on the other side, my mother had another kind of relationship with the unions. My mother was really a union organizer. And see, when my dad came here with my mother, they arrested my dad, and I was sitting in the back seat of the car because they thought she was white.
Wow.
So that's a whole nother dynamic of the color dynamic, which still exists in Indiana.
All right. Well, let me ask you this question. If you can just answer this maybe maybe a minute or so.
I'll do it in 30
right
seconds.
Before we go to commercial. Everybody always says, and it's the funniest joke, that I remember Dr. King and this, that, or the other about Dr. Martin Luther King, and that I've seen him, I got a chance to meet him, but most of the stories aren't true. Yours is true. So share a quick story about Dr. King and Mrs. King, Coretta Scott, and how they were influencing you and your family.
You really don't want to know. See, when Dr. King came during the Montgomery incident and stuff, see, my dad had lived with that family back in the late 40s when he was injured. He knew the King family. Now, when Martin started the march in Montgomery, they had a relationship, and when he came to Indianapolis, he knew my mother. My mother's name was Red because of her complexion. When she got mad, the red came out. And when King, I can remember, when King was at the house, he was only 25. Wow. 25. Now think, these are young men dealing the movement. And my dad, he was 25. My dad is 7. My dad was just 32. So I'm hearing these guys at the age of 14 and 13 interact with some other persons that were there, and knowing them when they were around, I could get out of the house, because and they were down to earth. I ain't gonna tell y'all everything.
Okay. I know it was a lot of stories.
I knew exactly what their diets were. I knew their beverages. I knew King smoked Winston-Salem's.
Okay.
And when Ralph Abernathy was up in there, he smoked Salem's. And see, back in the 50s, smoking wasn't a bad thing.
Smoke anywhere for them.
Yeah, and they didn't chew tobacco. And boy, the funny thing is they could tell jokes all day long. And see, I was related to that whole thing from the 50s all the way into the 60s until the time he passed.
All right. Well, I appreciate that insightful information as always. We're going to take a quick break. Everybody who's listening on air, if you can go to Facebook Live at Insight Sundays. Once again, that is Facebook Live at Insight Sundays. Tune in to watch the live mini documentary right before we come back to air about Dr. Andrew J. Brown, and you will see the late Rosa Lee Brown in the documentary too as well, talking about Dr. Andrew J. Brown. Once again, tune in live to Facebook at Insight Sundays, and we will be right back. All right, Indianapolis, welcome back to Insight Sundays. Right now, as I just stated right before we went to break, go to your phones, go to your iPads, your computers, wherever. We're going to air the live mini documentary on Facebook Live at Insight Sundays. Once again, that is Facebook Live at Insight Sundays. You will still be able to hear everything on air, but we're going to run that mini documentary over Dr. Andrew J. Brown and his legacy to Indianapolis, Indiana, and the country as a whole.
Country is in trouble. It is disturbing of some of the things that's happening and the attitudes that are taking place in the white community and the black community as we become more polarized, more divided, more hatred. There must be a togetherness and a concern for one another if we are going to survive.
Dr. Andrew Brown was the Indiana Martin Luther King. He was Dr. King's lieutenant here, and he was the one chosen, the chosen one here. And if today your soul, the soul of this community, is a little cleaner, then you can thank Dr. Andrew Brown.
When America entered the Second World War, Andrew John Brown, Jr., a young seminary student from Indianapolis, joined the Army as a field chaplain. One winter, while working in a munitions depot, Brown rescued 2 fellow soldiers from a near-fatal accident with poisonous gases. The soldiers survived, but the mustard gas badly scarred Brown's leg. Doctors told him they would have to amputate and sent him to a special whites-only hospital to perform the operation. Because of his race, he was not allowed to stay in the hospital, but rather on the back porch, where he was forced to stretch out between 2 lawn chairs.
It was in the holidays, Christmas holidays, very cold. He was the only black soldier at that hospital, and he was on a back porch, cold, and there was no one to visit him, nobody. And I guess we said after midnight or something, one of the nurses, Red Cross nurses, came out on the porch, and she had a couple of apples and oranges and things for him, and she apologized for him having to suffer this way, and she felt the indignities were uncalled for and whatnot.
Late that night, Brown prayed to God to save his leg, promising that if God saw him through this troubling time, he would devote his life to fighting social injustice. Within a few weeks, Andrew J. Brown walked out of the hospital on his own power.
He was destined to do his promise then, and that was really his real push. He never forgot it. He repeated it often.
When this life is over,
Brown accepted the post as minister of St. John's Missionary Baptist Church in Indianapolis. Reverend Brown used St. John's as the launching pad for his new social gospel. He founded a community organization, the Indianapolis Social Action Council, ISAC, that catapulted him into the political spotlight. It was through ISAC that Reverend Brown met another early civil rights proponent, Congressman Andy Jacobs.
Love thy enemy, love thy adversary, love God's children. You'd be surprised at the miracles that happen, the magnificent obsession, one writer called it. That's what he did. He helped the white people in this country remove the cancer of hypocrisy from the body politic.
Bill Crawford was a member of the Black Radical Action Project, a militant social action group in the city, and often disagreed with Reverend Brown's theories of nonviolent protest. But when Crawford finally met Brown, he was so impressed he decided to join ISAC.
He did not lead from the back, from his office. He was out front of the marches. I was inspired by the man. I was moved by him. He was so eloquent, and at the same time he was able to communicate in a fashion that was easily understandable.
Father Boniface Hardin, a young Benedictine priest and community activist, became an ardent follower of Reverend Brown's social gospel.
But there was this sense of directness to the issue. Dr. Andrew J. Brown would be able to go right to the essence of something, but he would say, this is something that we've got to change. We've got to confront the city officials. And a lot of times, you know, these were his friends, you know, in downtown. You know, the mayor or whatever, city county council, you know, these were people that he knew very well. And he said, we've really got to go in there, we've really got to put it on the line, and we got to make a change.
Brown often led Southern revivals at the invitation of his close friend, Alabama minister Ralph Abernathy. After one rally, Abernathy introduced Brown to a 28-year-old civil rights activist by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. Brown and King became fast friends, and King soon convinced the Indianapolis minister to form a northern branch of his new Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In the spring of 1969, violence erupted at Shortridge High School in Indianapolis.
The Indianapolis public school system had a reputation of treating African American students as second class. So students at Shortridge was a group of beautiful young students who simply said, we're not going to take it anymore, and they staged demonstrations.
School administrators called the police, who stormed in with tear gas and nightsticks, pulled the demonstrators into the street, and beat them. Reverend Brown knew the Indiana Christian Leadership Conference needed to respond to the incident immediately before riots and other explosive acts of retaliation surfaced. Brown staged a march from his downtown church to the governor's mansion as a form of nonviolent protest.
All right, Indianapolis, I hope that you enjoyed that mini documentary of Dr. Andrew J. Brown Academy. I want to make sure I say that right, Dr. Andrew J. Brown. Once again, we're going to wrap up the show. I just want to let everybody know about this event that's going to take place at Martin University. We're going to be honoring Dr. Andrew J. Brown. We're also going to be honoring Dr. Thomas L. Brown, who is in studio with us today. And we're also going to be honoring Jamar
Cobb Denard.
All right, we're going to be honoring him too. Somebody who's currently and working towards the future. I know that he's an attorney too as well. So once again, give us the date, the location, the time, and where they can get those tickets.
It'll be November 11th, 2017, Martin University, 2186 North Sherman Drive, 46218. You can get your tickets at Eventbrite under Legends Ball, Alpha Youth Legends Ball. And the event starts at 5 o'clock, and we're going to have a hallelujah good time, and we're going to celebrate the spirit of these great leaders. So please come out and join us.
All right. Once again, Indianapolis, we appreciate everybody for tuning in to Insight Sundays live on AM 1310 The Light, and we will check you guys out next week.